Finished up to consciousness. We are teaching biology, living world. We'll start. So we have finished up to consciousness. So there are some 4 lines that I have to summarize about the defining property. So first let me write that. So what are living organisms? To summarize whatever we have seen now, living organisms are self-replicating. They are evolving. They are self-regulating, interactive systems that are capable of responding to external stimuli. So what is the meaning of it? They are self-replicating, which means they can multiply on own. Without any external factor. They are evolving. What is the meaning of evolving? Whenever I'm trying to evolve, what it is trying to do is it is trying to become better than yesterday, or it is trying to change towards the because of the environment, or it is gradually changing. If you say I am using a mosquito coil, there is a mosquito which I am using, which is there. This mosquito initially will be kind of killed by this mosquito coil, but gradually as days pass, this will gain immunity and it will try to become a better version. So it might not be the same mosquito, but it would have gained resistance. Okay, so it is able to adapt. So you talk about microorganisms also. Microorganisms, so say for example, if I'm constantly using penicillin as an antibiotic, after some time penicillin will be ineffective in your body. Why? Because the microorganisms would have gained resistance to that particular thing. So what has happened to that particular thing? It is that gaining resistance is a type of evolution. So today you see like we are evolving. So automatically when mobile phone came, so in 2000 we did not have mobile phone in hand. When I was there in college, till 2003 I did not have mobile phone in my hand. So till 2003 it was only the landline phone which we were using. But after that mobile came, and then mobile phone has drastically changed the life in 20 years. So we have adapted to that particular thing and we have evolved towards that particular thing. So that is also what we call it as evolution. It's not just about anything. I mean, like it's about like organism and all those things. How organism has changed, and it is self-regulating. What is the meaning of self-regulating? Whenever I am trying to tell that something is self-regulating, it is capable of controlling everything on its own. So say for example, my body temperature has gone up. Automatically, my body will start to evaporate. I will start to sweat. And then like we will start to do that thing. So someone called Preetham is asking, Will we gain resistance towards this coronavirus? Yes. We will gain resistance towards coronavirus gradually if you're exposed to it. But before that thing, you should be exposed to it. There is a chance that you might be killed, or there is a chance that you might survive. Once you survive, you will be resistant to it. But if you are killed in that particular process, you cannot help it. Okay, so that is what immunity is all about. What is that you are doing whenever you are taking vaccine? Vaccine is just you are exposing yourself to that particular virus or a pathogen in a very safe form. What we don't have today is we don't have a vaccine that is safe enough to be consumed and not get you killed. So because of that, vaccine will be there. Okay, so sir, tell me the lifespan of RBC. Someone is telling RBC, WBC, platelets and all you'll study in blood, body fluids you will study. I'm not going to tell it now. Okay, so it is all there in 11th standard. You will know it by when we are coming to those chapters. And the next one is interactive system. So your body is like kind of like interacting with the stimulus. Whatever it is like there in the environment, whatever system is there outside, you are able to interact. So you are interacting with plants, you are interacting with animals. Okay, you are like kind of feeling fear of animals, or there are sometimes when you are trying to kill animals, you are interacting with the system. Okay, so there is something happening in the environment. Your body is able to take it and then you are able to adapt it. So like that, you are capable of interaction. So there is an amoeba seeing a food, it is going towards it. It is going and interacting with that food. If there is a danger, it is moving away. So that is what we call it as interactive system. Okay, so keeping this as a thing, we will try to evaluate some things. So let us take, you were all asking about robo the other day. If you're going to tell about robo is not self-replicating. Okay, so robo is not evolving. They are trying to give evolutionary properties to robo, but they are not still capable of robo. Today, artificial intelligence, they are not trying to do about it. Okay, and then next one is like robo is not self-regulating. So there needs to be some command which has to be given to a robo. So it is not self-regulating. Of course, it is interactive. Okay, so robo is qualifying only in this particular category, whereas it is failing in all these three things. You cannot make a robo to produce its own copy all of a sudden without the command being given. Robo cannot evolve. Of course, in robo movie, they are showing that it is showing some evolutionary skills. That is just a dream. It is a fiction. It is not like something true. Robo is not self-regulating. It cannot regulate on its own. So in all these things, you cannot say that robo is living. There are some things in which the coma patient will also fail here. So can you just explain how robos are self-regulating? What do you mean by self-regulation? Whenever I'm trying to tell that I am regulating, I have to, whenever there is something happening to me, I control. That is self-regulation. Okay, so say for example, I'm using Apple iPhone and then I use Siri. Siri is a sort of artificial intelligence, or you're talking about Alexa. So what is happening to Siri or Alexa whenever I'm asking a question which it does not know? It gives a standard reply. What it is trying to tell is, it is trying to tell me one standard reply. Okay, so if I'm going to ask its question, can you tell me about something which it's not there in the internet? Okay, then it is saying, I'm sorry, I would not be able to answer that question. That's all. But whereas in case of a self-regulatory system, it would be different. What is Alexa? Alexa is an artificial intelligent example Okay, so Amazon has released an robo kind of thing, assistant called as Alexa. Similarly, Siri is a virtual assistant by your iPhone, Apple. Okay, so these are all robos. So it is not able to self-regulate it. So say for example, in my body, if there is self-regulation, whenever I'm getting fever, that is what I was trying to tell you. So whenever I'm trying to get fever, my body is trying to regulate itself. How? By sweating. We sweat while we have fever so that the temperature is coming down. On the contrary, whenever the outside external temperature is going up, what am I doing? I'm shivering. Sorry, temperature is coming down in the outside. I am shivering. Why is this shivering happening? So that my temperature will gradually go up inside the body. So, kulur galatla, I'm feeling like chill and then like I'm shivering. Why? When my hands are shaking, my body temperature is rising. So I am trying to regulate the temperature inside. What is my insulin doing in my body? Insulin is trying to convert glucose into glycogen. Insulin is a hormone which is produced inside the body. This is trying to convert glucose into glycogen. And what it is trying to do inside my body? It is trying to regulate the level of glucose. Okay. So similarly, when there is no glucose, sufficiently glucose, what will happen? There is an enzyme, there is a hormone which is called as glucagon. Glucagon will allow the conversion of glycogen into glucose. So what it is trying to do? It is trying to regulate again. So this is what we mean by regulation. These kind of regulations are not possible inside a robo. Okay. So robos are not self-regulate. So please understand quickly, let us summarize. Living organisms are self-replicating, they are evolving, they are self-regulating, they are interactive systems that are capable of responding to external stimuli. Okay, quickly take down this thing. If you have taken this thing down, please give me a confirmation so that I can proceed. So someone is asking me that if this is a defining character. Yes, all these things when it is present in one organism, we call that as a defining character. Okay. So with that thing, we have defined the characters now. So now what we are going to see is we are going to see diversity in living worlds. Okay. So we have this living world which is there. Like there are so many animals which are there living in our earth. Okay. So approximately we know something like 1.7 to 1.8 million species we know. So we have like kind of like found so many species now. 1.7 million is nothing but 17 lakh to 18 lakh species we know. Okay. Children, I'll summarize once when I'm done with this particular thing. I'll show all the slides once again. So you just wait for me. You please listen to me now. At the end of the class, I'll show you all the slides. So if you want, you can take a snapshot at that time and then you can write it. There is someone asking some question. Santosh, I'll reply you. Okay, this is not related to the class. So I'll try to answer it in the last 10-15 minutes. Now, I don't want people to ask questions about coronavirus in this class. Okay, so please don't ask it now. Towards the end, if you have anything, if I'm asking you some doubts, questions, at that time you can ask me. So what is this diversity in living world? You have so many species which are there in the living world. So many species have been found. So we have found so many species. And they are estimating, there is an estimate that close to 5 to 8 million species are unfound. We don't know that these things are there. We haven't found so many species. Why there is a problem? Because there are lots of unexplored areas. So most of us have not gone to tropical rainforests. And we haven't seen the animals which are there. So there are lots of animals in the unexplored area of tropical rainforests for which we don't know whether there is, we haven't found them as a species. They are there, but what we haven't done them, we haven't classified them into any category. So which means there is a 5 to 8 million species which are unfound so far. It is there in the earth, but we haven't like really found what species they are and what are their characteristics, how do they live, all those things we don't know. So like that, there is a problem which is associated with the thing. Okay, so this is one more thing. There are some areas unexplored in your marine areas where organisms live. So in reefs and all, we don't know. We haven't explored all the reefs which are there in the earth. Okay, so this is one more thing. Out of the things, if I'm supposed to draw a pie chart, some 70% whatever we have found is animals. Some 22% some 8% is other organisms. This is the split of animals. Okay, insects will all come under animals. Okay, plants and fungi. Fungi and plants are 22%. 8% is other organism. So what is that we are trying to study is only 2% we have found. 98% unfound. The organisms are not found. This is the first thing. And then like what we are trying to give the detail out of whatever is found. Out of this 2%, if you're seeing, whatever we have found is 70% animals are found. Okay. And then 22% is fungi and plants. And remaining 8% are other organisms. So on the contrary, the next thing, I'm drawing one more pie chart. Okay. So in this thing, majority is, let us say this is 1. Let us say this is 2. Let us say this is 3. Let us say this is 4. Let us say this is 5. Let us say this is 6. The pie chart is not accurate. I'm just like trying to give the thing. 1 indicates insects. Insects we know close to 7,50,000 insects to 8 lakh insects we know. Okay. And then there is this other arthropods. So other arthropods account to 65,000. The third one, mollusk, account to 80,000. The fourth one, worms. We know close to 20,000 worms. Fifth, I'm sorry, this is 60,000 and this is 50,000. Mollusk means your snail and all will come under mollusk. They are all like a category of animals. You will study in animal kingdom. What are these things in detail? An example for mollusk is snail. Okay. Mammals will all come under vertebrates because they all have vertebrates. They all have vertebrates. We are all vertebrates. We have vertebrata. முதுகெலும்பு இருக்குது. We all have that backbone. The word arthropod means insects only. Okay. Arthropods means insects, but these are other insects which we don't know it. As in, like, what we have done is we have found that these are insects, but we haven't classified them properly. So those things will come under other. So whatever is classified is this much, not classified is this much. Then similarly, you have mollusk, you have worms. Vertebrates are the people with backbone. Your birds, animals, which are there. You have these species, fishes. You have aves, birds. You have amphibians. And then you have your mammals. All these things will be coming under chordates, which will have backbone. So these organisms are all coming under vertebrates. Okay. Sea anemone and all will come in other vertebrate because we haven't described echinodermata here. There is a class which is called as echinodermata. You would have studied in 9th standard. So it is coming under thing. So reptiles will also come under chordates. So all these 5 are called as chordates. Okay. So all the chordates will come under vertebrate. Backbone. That is what we call it as vertebrata. Whereas if you are talking about insects, mollusks and all will not have backbone. So they will be considered as a non-chordate. Okay. So this is what is the brief outline of diversity of living organisms. Next one. Who is saying cockroach have backbone? Cockroach does not have bone and all. Cockroach is made up of chitin. It is not bone. It is just a exoskeleton. It's like skin. Cockroach is an arthropod. It is an insect. So moving further, history of classification. There are 4 people who contributed to the classification of organisms. So what is classification? You're trying to sort out animals first of all. Whatever we know, we are trying to group them. Okay, we are trying to group them. We are trying to identify them. We are trying to compare with them and see the relationship. And then you are finally naming it. So say for example, I'm going to some tropical forest. Okay. I'm seeing something very new. What I have to do is I have to first identify that that is new. Okay. So that is there. And then I have to group them together. I have to compare it with other things and see. And then the third thing is I'll try to see the relationship with other existing species. And fourth thing is I'll try to group them into some category. And finally, I'll give a name to that particular organism. So all these things put together is what we call it as classification. So how did people find that this is the living organism and all those things? It is because of the science of classification. Okay. Someone is trying to tell Carolus Linnaeus. Carolus Linnaeus came up very late in this particular thing. Okay, so he is the final person who gave the scientific approach to study, but we'll try to study about the people here involved here. The first person to study all these things was Aristotle. Okay, Aristotle was the first guy who started doing this thing. So he lived in the area time of around 384 BC. Okay, what did this guy do? This guy classified plants into 3 categories: herbs, shrubs, and trees. And he classified the whatever he was there living around, he tried to classify them as herb, shrub, tree. Then similarly in animals, so we don't call Aristotle as a physicist, we'll call Aristotle as a philosophist. He was a person at that particular time. There was no something called as thing. I mean, they did not have physics, chemistry, and all. What they were trying to do was they were trying to do they were trying to tell about philosophies, how life existed, and all those things was philosophy, was considered as philosophy. So we call Aristotle as a philosopher. So he classified animals into 3 categories. I mean 2 categories. One which have red blood, and the other one which does not have a red blood. He also classified animals based on the place they will live. He classified into terrestrial animals, and then finally you have your amphibians. This is how this guy was trying to classify. So the first person to start this classification effort was Aristotle. Okay. So he was the first person. The second person is Charaka. So something that you need to know about Aristotle is he is the father of biology. Okay, Aristotle is father of biology. Then comes Charaka, who's the father of Ayurveda. Okay, so this guy, he classified some plants and animals. He lived around 1st century AD. Okay, and he classified organisms into two groups. I mean, he classified animals and plants, and he started writing notes about them. Their properties, and all these things. So he wrote a book which is called as Charaka Samhita. Okay, so this is the Indian Ayurvedic book. The third important person is called as John Gray. He was there in the 1600s to 1708. So I'm not sure about the year. Year doesn't matter, but he lived around the 16th century. Okay, so till this particular period he was there. He was the person who coined the term species. So today we are using the word species. So that species is a new term. It was coined by this person called as John Gray. And finally, the fourth person is Carl Linnaeus. So this person was there in the 1700s. He lived. So he is called as the father of taxonomy. So he was the person who came up with classification. So how to classify organisms, how to do things. I mean, how systematically how to do things. So all those things was like sort of taught by Carl Linnaeus. So Carl Linnaeus was the first person who came up with this particular idea. Okay, and then like who came up with this particular idea of classification. So what is taxonomy? I'll try to tell you. You just hang on. We are going to study about it. So these are the four important people when it comes to classification. Aristotle, second one is Charaka, third one is John Gray, and the fourth one is Carl Linnaeus. Please copy it down and let me know so that I can try to move further. Yeah, I'm not sure about the years and all. I mean, like it's not important. So what you just need to know is like you just need to know what are their contribution. In CBSE exam also, they are not going to ask which year they lived and all. So it is like not necessary as such. But what is more important is like we need to know what is that they found exactly. Okay, and what is that they are known for. So this guy, John Ray, coined the term species. Someone is saying that it's 1627 to 1705. So if you want the exact years, this is the exact year. Thank you, Shruti. And then this is 1707 to 1778. If you want to know the exact years. Is replication and reproduction same? Yes, sir. Yes, Carl Linnaeus only will do lots of work. We'll try to see what are the works that he has done. We'll try to study about it. So now moving on further, we need to know certain things. What are those things that we need to know? The first thing, terms related to classification. The first term that you should know is nomenclature. If you're going to talk about nomenclature, nomenclature exactly means naming. Okay. So there are two names any organisms will have. It will have something called as a common name. And then it will have a scientific name. So what is this common name? You have mambalam, mango, aam in Hindi, amba in Marathi. Okay. You have ma in mambalam in Tamil. So all these things are common names. We all can call according to our particular area directly. We will have like different names for different things. Okay. So you have some people call it as bindi. Some people call it as okra. Some people call it as lady's finger. So like that, some people call it as vendaka. So like that, you have different names. But what is the scientific name? The scientific name here is Mangifera indica. So Mangifera indica is the scientific name here. So that is what we call it as the common name. I mean, like that is the name that we use in all context. Why was the scientific name was introduced? The scientific name was introduced so that there is no confusion between two people. So when two scientists are going to name it, they should not name things that these things are already not there, and then they should not find out something the same thing again. Okay, so in order to avoid that confusion, they came up with something called as a scientific name. A scientific name is used in the scientific community, which has two parts. It has something called as a genus name, and it has something called as a species name. This genus name is also called as the generic name. The species name is also called as a specific epithet. Okay, so this is what is nomenclature is all about. Nomenclature is about naming the organism. Okay. So if you are going to talk about bindi, bindi's scientific name will be Abelmoschus esculentus. So instead of calling this with so many names, the scientific name is Abelmoschus esculentus. Okay, so this is what is nomenclature is all about. The second thing that you should know is Apis mellifera is bees. Yes, you have to learn scientific names of like popular organisms. I will tell you. It is there in the part of this chapter. We haven't gone into scientific naming yet. We are just studying what does nomenclature mean. The next thing that you need to understand is what is identification. Identification is the second thing. Okay. Determination of an organism being identical with another already known organism is identification. Okay, so we are trying to determine whether an organism is kind of linked with some other organism. For example, let us try to say that we know 3 plant species A, B, C. Okay, we already know the characters of these 3 things. Suppose there is a 4th plant which is coming as D. Okay, we are trying to evaluate. I have found something new. I think that this is new, but I want to cross check whether this is the same or different. So then what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to identify it with A. I'm trying to identify it with B. I'm trying to identify it with C. I'm seeing whether it is identical with already known organism. So if I find whether this is similar to A or B or C, I'm trying to see. And on finding, I have found that this is very similar to B and there is no difference between B and this, then I will not call it as D. I will rather confirm it as B. So this is what we call it as identification. Identification is a process by which you determine whether an organism newly found is already a known species or something new altogether. Okay, so that is what we are trying to determine with identification. Wait. I have like 3 more minutes. Let me just complete 2 more concepts and then like we can move. The next one is classification. Method of grouping or arranging organisms into so now I have found something new. Some organism is found new. Okay, so I want to place them. It is looking like a cat. So I'll try to put it under the cat family. Inside the cat family, I'm seeing it is a one which is there in the wild. So I'll put it under the wild cats. So let us say that I have found a new organism which is very similar to lion or tiger or cheetah, but it is not lion or tiger or cheetah. So then if I have to place it, the moment I have understood the thing, I am trying to put it inside some particular place. So I am putting it under cat family, under the wild cats. In that thing, I am trying to classify it. So wherever it is located, I'm trying to group it. So that is what we call it as classification. What is classification? Classification means grouping or arranging of organisms into various divisions. That is what we call it as classifications. Okay. So now we'll quickly start from first. So we found that living organisms are self-replicating, evolving, self-regulating, and they are interactive systems which are capable of interacting with the environment. Second slide, I was trying to explain how regulation happens, how an organism is self-regulatory. Third one, we were trying to study about diversity of living organisms. We found that 2% only we have found and 98% organisms are unfound. And whatever is known, 70% is animal, 22% plants and fungi, 8% is other organisms. Then we tried to classify organisms, different groups of organisms. Then we tried to study about history of classification. Who are the people who were involved? Aristotle was the first person. We studied about Charaka. Charaka wrote Charaka Samhita. He is the father of Ayurveda. John Ray coined the term species. Carl Linnaeus is father of taxonomy. He was the first person to come up with classification and all. Then we started. Hey, all slides only I'm showing, man. What is the meaning of it? I'm showing one by one all the slides. Nomenclature. We are trying to study about nomenclature. What is nomenclature? Nomenclature is naming. Identification. Identification is determination of an organism being identical with any other known organism. And finally, you have classification. Classification is grouping. Okay. So now you have question time. So if you have any questions, please let me know so that I can answer. So someone was asking me something earlier. Let me see that question first of all. So someone was asking me, sir, when a man is affected by a disease, he can be only cured with the help of a vaccine, is the question. Okay. So there are two types of cures which are there. One is treatment. And the other one is prevention. Adish, you are asking me what is genus. Genus, we'll see it in next class in detail. Now we will not see it because it is like kind of like I will be teaching it in the next class. So I have an infection in my body. I am taking an antibiotic. This is a treatment. I have been infected by the disease already. So I am taking something that is what we call it as antibiotic. Whereas before the organism is going to come into my body, I need to prevent it. So I take a vaccine. Okay. So vaccine is something which you take it before the disease comes to you. Antibiotics or antiviral medicines or some medicines are all something that you take it as a treatment. So here in this case of corona, we haven't even found treatment or we haven't even found prevention. So that is why it is becoming a problem. So for any disease to cure, either you should have a treatment or you should have a prevention. If there is a treatment which is successful, we can use. So that is why we take medicines and all for. There are certain diseases which can be treated with medicines. So those diseases are treated usually. So we don't take vaccines for those diseases. We don't have vaccines. So instead we have only treatment methodologies are there. Whereas there are certain deadly diseases which can be prevented by not coming by taking a vaccine. So for corona, now we need to find a vaccine or a treatment. Either of these two things has to be found. So they haven't found either of these two things yet. So some people are saying that Italy has found, some people are saying that Iran has found. So, but we don't know scientifically how much it is possible. So it has to be coming out in the market. So it needs time for production and all, and it needs time for distribution. And then we don't know how much effective it is. So that is what they are trying to do it now. Okay. Someone is asking me, can you define nomenclature? Nomenclature means naming. What is the definition of nomenclature? Nomenclature just means naming. I am naming organisms, okay, scientifically. Scientifically, if I am going to give a name that human beings, now instead of calling human beings, I am going to use the word Homo sapiens. So someone would have given this name. So the someone who has given the name has done the nomenclature for it. Okay. And then second thing, say, let us say that rice, I'm going to use the word Oryza sativa. Oryza sativa is paddy. So this is again your naming. So naming thing. So someone is saying that Cuba has found a medicine, sir. We don't know whether that medicine is like, that is what I'm trying to tell. If it is successful in rats, they might try to use it in humans too. Okay. I am not able to see it, Santosh. Please retype it and send it to me. Copy, paste. Okay, someone is asking me what is the use of another scientific name, which if we do have one in English. Not everyone speaks English. Okay, so first of all, please understand that the world is like kind of very diverse. So in China, they don't speak English at all. I mean, they still prefer to use Mandarin compared to other languages. Similarly, in Germany also, they do it that way. But whereas Latin names are the ones which are set as a standard. So there is something called as a biological nomenclature unit, which is there. Okay, we'll try to study about these things in the next class. So there are two association which will approve name, International Code for Botanical Nomenclature, botanical naming, and then there is some international code for zoological naming. So those people are trying to use Latin as a source language for naming. So Latin is considered as the mother of all languages. So they are like kind of considering these names. Okay. So that is why we use Latin. So there are two questions. I'm not taking any more questions. Why are scientific names so difficult? Because it is taken from Latin and you don't know Latin. If you know Latin, these names will become easy for you. Can a virus multiply inside an organism? Yes, it might be able to multiply inside an organism. That is what is happening. Okay. Sir, you said that we are exposed to coronavirus. You said that we gain our immune power. Then why are we under lockdown is the question. Santosh, listen here. Suppose if we are inside the lockdown, we are not exposing ourselves to the virus. So in order to gain immune power, we call that concept as a herd immunity. Okay. So there is something called as a herd immunity. So if you're talking about a herd immunity, we can expose everyone to corona. You can just go out and then like you can just get into the touch of contact with that corona patients, and then like you can get yourself with corona. But what we don't know is, we don't know how much herd immunity is there for this particular disease. Whether this disease will come after exposing. As in like, let us say that there is a patient A who's there, who's got corona, and he has survived it. There is one more person who has died. There is a possibility that he can die or he can survive. Okay. So if this person is going to have this survival, then we don't know whether this particular person can get it again. Whenever we are using herd immunity, what we are allowing is we are allowing survival of fittest. So what exactly happens is survival of fittest is the case. So let us say that India's population is so huge that if you are allowing everyone to go out and get the disease, what if many people are going to come and drop into the hospitals? Okay, they will get immune power. But after what? After surviving the disease. But what if many people who are attacked by the disease and are killed by the disease? So in that case, your herd immunity thing is becoming a problem. Okay, so you cannot allow everyone to go ahead with the, we are like kind of locking down ourselves, so that we are kind of like delaying the process and gradually we are trying to get the thing. So by the time like we should be getting the medicine is what people are trying to tell. If you are getting herd immunity means we don't know whether can that particular person get it again, because people don't know anything about corona as of now. They are trying to study whether they are getting it again or not. Generally viral diseases, once you are got the disease and you are getting out of it, you will survive. Okay, but we don't know about corona yet, so we really don't know. That is why is the reason. And then someone wanted third slide alone. This is the third slide. Quickly take it the copy. Eastward third slide. Belgium is following herd immunity, but we don't know. Herd immunity is a problematic situation. Gokul, we don't know yet. They haven't found it yet, but generally organisms should survive. How many viruses can be present at the body at the same time? Many viruses can be there. Okay, so someone else was asking me a question on, can viruses replicate inside the body? Yes, they can multiply. They can multiply like any times, number of times inside the cell. Okay, children, it's 11:50. So we'll call it off as a day. We'll stop the class today. We'll meet on next Tuesday. Thank you very much.